You never know.
Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. The world is in shock. America's in shock. Could it really happen here? Really?
Every week.
In 2025, are we that barbaric that we're no longer capable of talking to each other? You'd think that we're so civilized that we could talk. So it's one thing, it started on social media when people were unfriending or defriending their, people that they didn't agree with. A little alarming, but nothing criminal about that. People cut off relationships with family members that politically disagreed with their politics. Okay. Horrific, but, bad, but not horrific. But yesterday's murder, cold-blooded murder, pre-calculated, premeditated, first-degree assassination, live on camera of Charlie Kirk is a new low in our culture. Now, it's got nothing to do with whether you agree or disagree with his views. And that's part of the problem right now. Because in social media, the schadenfreude that is out there for people that are actually gloating over his murder is horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific.
There was a journalist on MSNBC who
was justifying
berating and whatever, and thank God the company
right.
fired him.
Right. It's really horrific that you'd think that we'd be able to communicate. We can talk, but I see the Charlie Kirk assassination as the death of conversation. It's the death of ideas. It's now we've now been subjected or descended into the hell of echo chambers. We can only speak to people that echo our own views, because if, God forbid, somebody disagrees with you, then they make you unsafe. Then they make you feel it's not a safe space. Then you don't feel safe. You don't feel protected. You feel like they're exploiting and they're taking advantage. Instead of sharing an idea, instead of discussing, there's no longer any conversation. It's absolutely tragic. And I feel now, of course, Donald Trump got very, very, very close to being in exactly the same situation. What was it, a year ago?
Just not as competent a shooter.
What is it, a year ago?
No, it was more than a year. Yeah, it was a year ago, July.
It was about a year ago, right? And God would only knows what might have happened then if he was hit. But whatever. Thank God. Okay. Point being that we're against any form of anarchy, any form of chaos. We believe in justice and in law and order, and that's the only way that society can thrive. Because if, God forbid, you're going to have a situation where only a certain political view is allowed to operate, and any other view is executed, then we're descending into a totalitarian dictatorship. The question is, what does the Torah have to say about this? Yeah.
Reading this word, Jerry Seinfeld was invited by the
Chabad of Duke
to introduce this hostage who was really
the same hostage who's coming here on October 23rd, by the way. But go ahead.
So, and people in the audience, we want free Palestine, and what Jerry Seinfeld said, which I think is pretty awesome, said, you know what, the Ku Klux Klan at least said, we don't like blacks.
At least they're open about who they hate.
Right.
The KKK.
Guys, Palestine. You don't even know what that is.
Right. It's a racist group.
Right. And
the Free Palestine Movement is a racist organization, which openly calls for ethnically cleansing Jews from Israel. Anyways, guys, I want to get into this. We're not getting political, folks. We're getting focused on Torah here, and I want to talk to you about what the Torah has to say. I want to share with you what I believe the Torah has to share with us about the events that happened yesterday. Yesterday was, in my opinion, a murder the likes of which it was like a new low. It was a new low. It was almost. I wasn't alive during JFK's assassination. I wasn't there.
That was very
Fine. So maybe then we were, for my generation, we look back and we say, maybe those are the dark ages. But today, could this really happen? Okay, could this really happen? And I want to make reference to one such episode that happened in the Torah. Because in the Torah as well, in the history of the world, there was also the first murder that took place. When was the first murder? It was the murder of Cain and Abel. It was a fresh new world. It was a world that had emerged from chaos. God had built a brand new world, created in 7 magnificent days. It was a perfect world. Adam and Eve frolicking in the Garden of Eden. They have 2 sons, Cain and Abel. Abel and Cain both offer an offering before God. God accepts only Abel's offering, not Cain's. Cain offers from the inferior of his produce, and Abel offers from the superior of his flock. A fire descends from heaven to consume the offering of Abel and not of Cain. Cain is jealous. What does Cain do? Because of his jealousy, he murders Abel in cold blood. Now, this story is a very, very shocking story. It's the first murder in the Torah. They didn't even, in history, they didn't even know what murder was. Cain, it says in the commentaries on Torah, he didn't even know how to murder. They didn't even know how to murder. He wasn't sure how to take his soul out of him. So he chopped him up into small pieces because he wasn't sure where the soul is. He was trying to make sure that the soul was out of there. He was trying to kill him. But what happens afterwards? Obviously, Cain is exiled. Cain is given the mark of Cain, where he's forced to exile for the rest of his life. He's never allowed to settle. But Cain comes up with a very interesting, and it's interesting, the Torah doesn't really hold him so accountable because there was no precedent. There was no precedent in terms of his deed. It's not like he knew what murder was, right? They weren't even sure what it was. His punishment of wandering was essentially a consequence of his envy. Because what is envy of Abel? Why was he envious of Abel? He was envious of Abel because he wasn't comfortable in his own skin. He was constantly checking if the grass is green on the other side. So the consequence of that action was that he would never be able to settle. He'd always have to be a wanderer throughout the land, right? Okay. But what I want to focus on is what comes after the murder. We can't do anything about the assassin. We can't turn back the clock. But what we can do is talk about what happens after the murder, right? The Torah tells us, the portion of Bereshis, which we read, it's the very first portion in the Torah, covers about 2,000 years of history. Now, considering that the world is only 5,786 years old, 2,000 years of history is quite a massive swath of time to be encapsulated in one parsha, in one portion. So when the Torah tells us whatever it tells us in the portion of Genesis, of Bereshis, it's telling us only the most important events of the first 2,000 years of existence, right? It doesn't cover every detail. The Torah makes sure to tell us that there were 2 people called Hanoch. One of them was the son of Cain, and the other one was a son of Shes, who was a 3rd son of Adam and Eve that was born later, right? Seth, exactly. He was a son of Seth. So this Hanoch, the son of Cain, he was born after Cain murdered Abel. And then Seth also was born after the murder. So his son was called Hanoch also. What's the difference between these 2 Hanochs? The Torah points out to us in the portion of Genesis that Hanoch, the son of Cain, who was born after the murder, Cain made sure to build a city and named it after his son Hanoch. He called the city Hanoch. So Cain has a son after the murder, and then he builds a city named after this boy.
Where did he get the mother from?
The mother?
Had to be his sister.
Good question. I see you got a Talmud cup here. So how did they have a mother? So this is part of the story, is that Cain and Abel both were born with twin sisters. And they married their twin sisters. The problem was that Abel had 2 twin sisters. And the fight was who should get the second twin. It was over a woman. Cain said, I'm the firstborn. I should get her. I should get a double portion. And Abel says, find this keeper. She was born with me. So this is the undercurrent of the story. Whatever. Anyways, there's more to the story, right? So there always is, right? So why does the Torah have to tell us? So why does the Torah have to tell us about Cain building a city, calling it Chanoch? What's the message? Why is this an important detail? Do we know where the city of Chanoch is today? Are there ruins of the city of Chanoch somewhere in Mesopotamia? Why do we need to know this? Out of 2,000 years of the most important events of the history of the world, why is it important for us to know that Cain had a son called Chanoch, and then he built a city, named after him? Because, says Mike, here the Torah is teaching us about teshuvah. Teshuvah, which means repentance. Teshuvah, which means repair. Teshuvah, which means to fix that which was broken. How did he do this? Let's compare the two Chanochs. One of them was born and had a city built after him. The other Chanoch, what does the Torah say about him? Other Chanoch was the one who was taken by God. It says, and Chanoch walked with Elohim, and he was gone for Elohim, for God had taken him. That's what it says. That's what it says. So two Chanochs, right? Shalom from Singapore. Nice to meet you, Kevin. What's happening to USA? Behaving unlike first world status. Yes, Kevin, we are humiliated. We are embarrassed that the United States of America is so shameful. Well, I wouldn't say the United States is expressive of this assassin's behavior, but there is an element, there's a movement in America, and it's embarrassing, it's humiliating. Yeah, God should save us. But let's talk about what we can do, folks. Let's talk about what happened. So the two Chanochs, one was taken by God. Chanoch, the son of Seth.
And that was
Son of Seth. Chanoch, son of Cain, the city was built after him. What's the significance of the story?
The second one was righteous, wasn't he?
He was righteous, yes. He happened to be righteous, and God took him. Why did God take him? Rashi says, because God didn't want him. God foresaw that he was going to hang out with the wrong crowd, and he didn't want him to be spoiled, so he took him early. But we're going to take a different perspective today. Because today we're going to learn in light of the Charlie Kirk assassination. I can't even believe we're saying this. Charlie Kirk, such a sweet guy. You know, he was like a model citizen, you know? He was an American dream. It was an American dream. He was young, he got married, he had children, he built a house, he built a job, he had power, he had influence.
He wasn't even political.
What?
He had open speech.
Yeah, he would talk to the other side. He was not afraid of engaging the other side. He was like, talk to me. He said, prove me wrong. He said, prove me wrong. So they gave him a bullet. Right? Is that conversation? I mean, it's tragic. It's like surreal to talk about.
That's how it was done behind the Iron Curtain.
Oh, exactly. It's behind the Iron Curtain. It's the communists rising again. So what happens here? I want to draw your attention to the first murder in history and how the world reacted to it. So what Cain did was, when Cain realized what he did not only regret it, he replenished. And that's the key here. Cain did not only say, oops, my bad. He didn't just say that. Cain made sure to replace the missing soul by giving birth to a son whom he named Chanoch, which means education. Perhaps he named him Chanoch because he was trying to say, this guy's going to teach me. Right? Maybe that's the message to mankind about the errors of murder. Tshuva, repentance, is not just regretting the past. And it's not only about bearing the punishment or the consequence, but in fact, teshuvah requires that you take action that will actually replenish the error. So what the Torah is teaching us about what Cain did for his teshuvah is that he got married, he gave birth to a son, and he built a city because he was going to establish the civilization that he had so recklessly destroyed with his encounter with Abel. So this is what Cain does. Brings a new soul to this world, and he builds a city. And he taught us this is how he teaches us and all future generations about how we're supposed to confront evil, about how we're supposed to confront darkness and the mistakes that we make, how we're supposed to do teshuvah. This is the culmination of repentance when Cain recognizes his mistake, and he makes sure not only to regret but also to replenish. And I want to say, it's very, very concerning today when you look at Charlie Kirk in the world after Charlie Kirk. You think about it for a second. Who's next? Who's next? Does that mean that anytime somebody speaks out their mind in a way that disagrees with, some extreme far left communist KKK viewpoint, he's got to walk around with a bulletproof shield. What is the world coming to?
Could be a lot worse.
This could certainly intimidate the voices of freedom and of democracy and of sensibility. Right? What does it mean? You got to put a muffler in any voice? This is very disturbing. But I think that the message here is that we have no choice but to replenish his voice. If the voice of Charlie has been silenced, then we as Americans need to make sure that we have to replenish that voice and to not be intimidated. This is the American way. If you want to go the Russian dream is to hide out and be intimidated. If you want to take the European way, it's to cower and to surrender to the invasion of the immigration from Muslim countries. But the American way is to stand up and to make sure that your voice is heard and to not be intimidated. That's why America is the superpower, because America is not weak. America is strong. It's the land of the free because of the brave. I believe that we have to draw a message here from Cain, from the first murder in Torah, to realize that we have to make our voices even louder. Let's contrast this with the other Chanoch in Torah. Who was the other Chanoch, the son of Seth? He was a righteous person. But guess what? He was righteous in his own ivory tower. This man had zero influence. And that's why God considered him irrelevant. And that's why God took him.
Isn't there a book named after him?
I'm not sure.
What?
So, not that I'm aware of. So Chanoch was taken by God because this was a righteous man who had zero influence. And God said, pointless. It's like the Jews when they were about to enter into the promised land. And they said, no, thank you.
Too much work.
We don't want to engage with the promised land. We'd rather stay in our bubble, in our cocoon, in our air-conditioned tent, traveling through this desert. We're going to stay here for the rest of our lives.
Free bread.
Free bread. That's right. We want free bread. We want government handouts. So what does God say to the Jewish people? He says, in that case, I'm going to kill you. Wasn't God, we've learned about this. It's not that God was having a temper tantrum. And he says, if you're not going to eat your soup, I'm going to murder you. What kind of mother says that to her kids, right? Rather, God is saying, your mother would say, I'm going to kill you, right? That's not what God was doing. But God was saying, look, if you guys want to stay in the bubble, if you don't want to enter into the promised land, if you don't want to have an impact on this world around you, then okay, I'll just send you straight to heaven. There's nothing for you to do in this world. You just get to hang out here for no particular reason. So let's just give you a fast pass to heaven, right? What we learned from the second Chanoch, who was what we call a tzaddik in pelts. He was a righteous person in a fur coat. What is it? What is a fur coat? There's two, as an expression in Yiddish, there's two ways to warm yourself up when you're cold. You can either light a fire, or you could put on a fur coat. If you light a fire, you're influencing the whole environment. The whole room, the whole place becomes warm. But if you're putting on a fur coat, then only yourself is taken care of. Nobody else is warmed up, right? A tzaddik in pelts is the righteous person in his ivory tower. He's got nothing to do in a silo. He's got nothing to do with anybody else. And such a righteous person is irrelevant. So what needs to happen, the Rebbe points out, is that it's nice to be a righteous person, but you have to balance substance with influence. You've got to be able to have that balance, not to separate yourself from the world. You weren't placed into this world in order to lock yourself up in a closet and study Torah all day and all night. You were placed into this world in order to make this world a home for God Almighty, and you do that by engaging in commerce. You do that by engaging in politics. You do that by engaging in conversation and public debate. You do that by being relevant, a relevant resident of this world, instead of being some sort of pariah that is immune to any encounter with this world. Yes, now we have a balance. On Shabbos, we're immune from the world. On Shabbos, we go into our little bubble where we are protected. We don't do email. We don't do work. We don't engage. We don't deal with any manual labor. But for the 6 days a week, you shall work. You're absolutely supposed to work. And this is what the two Chanochs teach us. Very powerful messaging about us today, who are grieving not only the loss of Charlie Kirk, But for me, it's even more than that. We're grieving the loss of a respectful conversation. We're grieving the loss of democracy. I read somewhere that democracies don't last. Historically, democracies have never lasted more than 250 years. America's in its 250th year right now. We are in our 250th year since 1776. I hope and pray that this is not the death of democracy.
It's a wonderful message, but how do you expect to change it? I mean, how are you? Just look at yesterday as an example. Charlie Kirk's body wasn't cold, and you have somebody, a
Gloating.
commentator
MSNBC.
on MSNBC,
Justifying.
who says something. No, if you look at his exact words, it wasn't a justification. It was, whatever it was.
A bit of gloating.
No, it
I don't
wasn't
know.
gloating at all.
No.
He was asked a question about the environment and everything.
It was
that's done.
exactly right.
And he's talking about the environment of this and how it leads to something.
So what did he say?
He
Yeah,
said
yeah, hold on,
that
sorry.
an environment was created where something like this happens, it shouldn't come as a surprise. So what happens? He says this, he's fired. Where does that enhance dialogue?
Yeah.
The president of the United
But so what did he say?
Hold on.
They said he was insensitive.
Did he say he brought it upon himself?
Exactly, he was insensitive
And
because he
inappropriate.
said
No,
that
he
the
never said that.
environment that we currently live in is such that this should not come as a surprise.
I thought he said that
I thought it was something
No.
I thought he said
You know what,
that he-
find the exact-
that
That's
he
the problem. Yeah, you think.
Fine,
okay,
fine.
fine. You know, who cares? Why you bring him
So
up?
here's the point.
Yeah.
So he was on the left. He said something. The president of the United States gets up and, after saying these glowing words about Charlie Kirk, blames the Democrats.
Well, yeah, why
So-
shouldn't he?
Oh, come
Oh,
on.
there you go.
No, that's.
You're not
Okay,
gonna
okay,
hear
okay.
that.
You're
You're
right.
right.
Rob,
agree 100%.
Rob, let's stop. Let's stop. Rob, let's
So
stop.
where-
Let's
no, no.
not name names. Let's not name names, and let's
No,
come to
no,
the
I'm
solution.
naming
Let's
names.
talk about the solution that you're
Right.
seeking.
So what's the solution?
The solution
What
is
are the
not
people
to
who-
blame.
Who cannot?
The solution is not to blame, not the commentator, not this and not that, and not the other. The solution is for us
So that
to-
goes my basic question.
so let's talk about the answer.
That's what-
You know, guys, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yes, we read it.
No, read the words.
Read the words he says.
During MSNBC's coverage of Kirk shooting, anchor Katie Torr asked Dowd about the environment in which a shooting like this happens. Dowd responded with the following about Kirk. He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in
Well,
this,
That's not,
who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And they always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that is the environment we are in. You can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have, and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place. And that's the unfortunate environment.
So
we
it's
are
his
in.
fault. So he brought it upon himself.
Yeah.
He said it's his fault.
Yeah.
He said it's his
In
fault.
the environment?
Yeah, no, he said hateful words, and therefore hateful words. He didn't make them feel
Yeah,
safe.
well, let me tell you something. Look at Charlie Kirk's history. He has a lot of, anti-Semitic tropes before he suddenly found religion. And why did he find religion? He's a big Christian, believer, and the Christians believe that you need a strong Israel
Rob,
because when the Mashiach.
Rob, let's focus. Rob, let's focus on your question. Let's focus on your
Somebody
question.
sent me a text
So, here's at the
from
side.
Tehillim. Who will take my part against evildoers? Who will stand up for me against wrongdoers? It's in Psalm 94.
Great.
Somebody just
So,
sent
guys,
me.
let's I want to keep this focused on Torah, okay? Because I'm not getting political. I don't want to get political. I'm not interested in what he said, what she said, what the other said. I want to talk about what we have to do from now. The problem is when we get stuck in narratives, okay? And I don't know so much about Charlie Kirk himself. I just know that this was the silencing of a voice that the guy didn't agree with. And that's not how you deal with a voice that you don't agree with. Come up with a better argument. That's the way to work. And if you can't get a better argument, maybe the guy's got a point and maybe you're wrong, right? Not you, but the guy, right? Point being that we cannot be intimidated into silence, and we cannot be intimidated to descend into the echo chambers. We have to increase the dialogue. We have to increase the conversation. We have to make sure that we're not surrendering to terror, which is what this assassin was trying to create, but that we, in fact, will move away from this defriending culture, of cutting off people that you disagree with on social media. We've got to adopt Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. We've got to learn.
Exactly it. I was thinking that.
We've got to learn to listen to what the other side is saying. I want to tell you, I'm a rabbi, okay? I love talking to people that have opposing political views to me. I love it. I enjoy, and you know what I do when I talk to them? I shut my mouth and I open my ears. When I talk to someone that has a different political view from myself, oh, really, you think that Hamas is justified? Please tell me why. I want to hear. I want to hear. And then I realized what an idiotic argument they come up with, right? There was a guy yesterday who was saying, he was actually talking to Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk was trying to justify Israel's actions in Gaza. And he said, Charlie said something about, who started this war? So this pro-Hamas guy says, why do you always go back to October 7th?
Why not?
And that's what Charlie said, like why not? This war is still going on. We still have hostages that we're still trying to retrieve. What do you mean, why do we always go back? When you realize the stupidity of an argument, you realize, okay, so I'm not crazy because I know that this person is just biased and in a echo chamber. Exactly right. So, but you got to listen to what they have to say. And if it's a different spiritual view, if it's a different political view, if it's a different any kind of view, open up your ears. This is what America's about. Because if we don't do that and we follow the KKK or the shooter or these extreme groups, fringe groups, we're going to become totalitarian regimes, right? And those guys, by the way, that accuse parties in power of being dictators are themselves through their actions of assassination and attempted assassination are themselves behaving as dictators, right? So the message we have to take away, my friends, is we have to learn from the two Chanochs. The Torah tells us the two Chanochs in response to the first murder in Torah, the first execution, when Cain killed Abel. Cain did a true teshuvah. Not only did he regret what he did, but he gave birth to a new son. And he made sure to replenish the life and to build a city to make sure that this Abel would have had many children. I'm now going to create a city in his memory, in his honor, to replace what was lost. On the flip side, you've got Hanoch, the son of Seth, who took a different approach. He was substance, very substantial, but without influence. And that was irrelevant. That's not what we put into this world. We put into this world in order to make an impact. So let us do the same. We cannot sell our soul. We have to make sure that we know who we are, that we know who we represent, where we're coming from, where we're going, what our mission is upon this world. We're the chosen people. We're here to bring ethics and morality, consciousness and divine awareness to this world. We can never sell our souls because it's not popular or because it's not cool or because it's not what everybody wants to receive. We've got to have substance together with a beautiful balance of influence to be able to go out there and to make an impact. And I'm so honored to see we have such a huge crowd here today on our YouTube channel. We've got almost 100 people that are watching live this channel because this Torah class is a substantial Torah class that's having global influence out in Singapore as well in a very meaningful way. Let us all walk away from this Charlie Kirk assassination emboldened to replenish the dialogue, to replenish the fall of democracy that happened yesterday, to ensure that we can uphold the values that is the very fabric of this nation, the very fabric of a righteous world, of a world that's able to function without chaos and anarchy, but with law and order. Let us strengthen our values and come to the point where we say, you know what, maybe Charlie had a point, because Charlie's legacy was to be able to reach over the aisle and to say, prove me wrong. He was waiting for the guy to prove him wrong. I wonder if there's any videos of him losing a debate. I don't know. I didn't see one like that. But I'm curious if there is such a thing. But he would go out to the other side, like Ben Shapiro does, who goes to the other side. And God bless Ben Shapiro. The man should be safe and protected, right? But think about it. Just because you engage with the other side, you need to be assassinated. It's such a terrible thing. No, we have to strengthen our values, and God should bless us all as individuals and the United States of America and the free world to be able to continue to be the powerhouse and the tower of light, the lighthouse that America has been to the world, that the Jewish people also have been to the world. We should be strong and unintimidated, and God should bless our actions. That in fact, all of the world should be able to come to a state of peace with the coming of Mashiach. Yes, Rob.
What's your commentary on the bombing of Hamas in Doha.
I'm disappointed with the bombing of Hamas in Doha. It should have happened on October 8th. It should have happened 2 years ago. There's no reason when those guys in Doha on October 7th, there's video of them watching the October 7th attacks, and all of the Hamas political leadership there were praising Allah. They were bowing down. That moment, there should have been an attack on Qatar.
They weren't ready for it.
Of course, they weren't ready for it. I'm just saying that it was.
Trump who called-
Yeah, look, we don't know exactly what happened, but I want to tell you, my answer to that is the Torah is very explicit. When somebody rises up to strike you, you strike them first. Don't wait, right? I don't care where they are. And you don't ask the United Nations for permission about attacking in Qatar. If somebody's holding an axe to your head or a bullet to your head, if somebody's aiming a rifle, you don't say, well, maybe he's just doing shooting practice on the roof of Utah University. No, you go out and you shoot him first. That's what you do. Sorry, Robert, you're about to say.
I admire your passion
Thank you.
on the death of Charlie Kirk. But where was your passion when the Minnesota representative was killed in his house? Where was your passion when Nancy Pelosi's husband was almost beaten to death in his house? Where was your passion when Gabby Gifford was nearly assassinated?
Shot in the face.
Or when the Republican Witt was shot?
Police.
Yes,
Steve Scalise.
Steve
At the
Scalise.
baseball game.
Well, at a baseball game.
Was it
Is it because Charlie Kirk is so pro-Israel that's aroused?
I would have felt the same way. Rob.
When those children were killed in the church, or when the people were killed in the synagogue, where was that passion? Why is this passion coming out now?
I think that.
So,
I'll tell you what. I think that, Rob, that my reaction would have been the same if it would have been a left-wing debater as well. It wouldn't make any difference to me.
but why not? Why not all these other times?
I think I did some of them.
And
Let me just answer the question. I think I did react to some of them. I remember reacting to the synagogue shootings.
Well, of course.
It depends on what's going on, right? It depends on what's happening. I've tried to be the voice of reason. I cannot be the world's global commentator, right? But I react to things that make me that inspire my passion.
You did say something earlier. I really don't know what he said and everything else in the past.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah, I'm not a Charlie Kirk junkie. I don't know exactly what he said, and you pointing out about everything he's ever said. I don't know.
I think that should be the death of any man diminishes.
yeah.
Was he always pro-Israel? By the way, I'm curious to know. Charlie Kirk.
No.
Okay, so right. So see, there you go. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
Is he pro-Jewish or is he just evangelical Christian?
No.
Oh, so there you go. So I'm standing up up here for a guy that's very different to me. Do you realize how different Charlie Kirk is to me?
Yeah, but would you have been passionate if he was anti-Israel?
But his campaign was not about Israel. His campaign was about dialogue.
Absolutely.
conversation.
Right, and that's why I kept on saying it's the death of
It
dialogue.
was coincidental that he was pro-Israel.
I'm not criticizing. I agree.
Yeah, we are.
But why is
Um,
the passion
I just see if there's any comments I want to talk about over here.
It's like everyone blames it on the other. It was this. Everything's fine.
Arky Man says he wasn't anti-Israel. Let me see if there's any other comments here. I think he was more than willing to lose a debate. Good morning, Rabbi Corporal. Don't know what that is. Return to Israel. Okay, fine. No one.
They want you to return.
Okay, whatever. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We're going to end it off over here. Have a good day.